My daughter obtained the only government-funded study abroad qualification in the entire school. However, before going abroad, she secretly sold our only house in Beijing, deceiving me out of all my savings and transferring the money overseas. She claimed that all her misfortunes in life were caused by me. Her father's infidelity and the disdain from her boyfriend's family were all because I was a stay-at-home mom without any income. As I approached 50, the only family member I had dealt me the heaviest blow, forcing me into a corner. When I opened my eyes, I returned to the time when my daughter was 5 years old. Upon regaining consciousness, I found myself standing at the entrance of the intensive care unit. Before long, the doctor came out and said to me, "The child is no longer in life-threatening condition. But you adults have been too careless. How could you let a 5-year-old accidentally ingest adult blood pressure medication?" Fortunately, she was sent to the hospital in time, otherwise, she could have died. The nanny, Audrey, trembled as she looked at me. "Madam, I really didn't mean to. I was cooking when Julia was rummaging through the medicine cabinet. I neglected to keep an eye on her." After saying this, she burst into tears, pleading with me not to fire her. I bowed my head in silence. In my past life, I had yelled at Audrey in the hospital corridor, telling her that if she didn't resign on her own, I would sue her in court. By the time Julia was discharged from the hospital, Audrey had already left. I took a long leave and cared for Julia at home for half a month. That year, I was 33 years old, a department head at a large foreign enterprise in Beijing. During my leave, the company called me countless times, saying there were urgent matters related to projects that needed to be handled. To focus on taking care of Julia and ensure her recovery, I handed over my projects and authority to the deputy manager, Scarlett. Later, Scarlett replaced my position. Yes, I resigned. My husband and I were worried about hiring a nanny again, afraid that Julia might have another incident. That night, after Julia fell asleep, my husband hugged me and said, "You don't need to go to work anymore, just stay home and take care of Julia. From now on, I will pay your social insurance, and my salary card belongs to both of you. I will support my wife and child." Before agreeing to resign, I insisted that he go to the housing authority to change the ownership of our house in Beijing to our daughter's name alone. He was a bit unhappy and said, "Why bother? We are a family, isn't our name the same?" I thought to myself, what if one day he betrayed this family? At least this house could provide some security for my daughter. But I was wrong, completely wrong. My 10-year-old daughter lifted her tender face and asked me, "Why are my classmates' mothers doctors and professors, but my mother is a housewife?" At that time, I ruffled her hair and said, "Your mother has more time to accompany you as you grow up." At 16, my daughter shouted at me, "I don't need your companionship. What I need is money." At 22, she stood in the international departure hall of the capital airport, dressed in luxury brands. During my hospitalization for breast cancer, she secretly sold our only house in Beijing and took my bank card under the pretense of needing living expenses for studying abroad, transferring all my savings. After I was discharged, I returned home, only to be informed by the property management that my house had been sold and I needed to move out within a week. I really didn't understand. When my daughter was hospitalized as a child, I gave up my high-paying job for her. Now that I was hospitalized, she made me lose everything. I trembled as I asked her, "You sold the house and transferred all my money just to buy designer clothes and bags?" My daughter sneered, "What do you mean your money? All the money in this house was earned by my dad. You have made no contribution to this family." It turns out that cooking 3 meals a day wasn't a contribution, taking care of all household chores wasn't a contribution, and tutoring my daughter in all subjects until her high school graduation wasn't a contribution. She then shouted at me, "My dad cheated because you don't work. No man would like a stay-at-home mom who doesn't earn money and checks up on him every day." My boyfriend's parents are both executives at state-owned enterprises. They look down on my family background and want a daughter-in-law who is a good match, forcing my boyfriend to break up with me. For so many years, my dad has worked hard enough. His career is getting better and better, and it's you who is dragging him down. You ruined this family and my love life. I hate you. After I go abroad this time, I will never come back. Even if you die, I won't look back." She then shouted at me, "My dad cheated because you don't work. No man would like a stay-at-home mom who..." She was getting older and it would be hard for her to find another high-paying nanny job as easy as this one. I felt exhausted and said, "Stop crying, I didn't say I was going to fire you." She immediately swore to assure me, "Don't worry, madam, I will be extra careful in taking care of Julia from now on." Julia was hospitalized for 7 days, during which Audrey took care of her. My husband, Logan, was not pleased that I didn't personally take care of Julia. He said to me, "Eleanor, after such a big incident with the child, you didn't go to accompany her. You are the child's mother." I calmly replied, "You are the child's father too." Logan said, "I've just been too busy with work lately. You don't know how many trivial matters there are in our company. As a little leader, I can't keep up every day." I said, "Since we're both so busy with work, we might as well not worry about Julia, since Audrey is here." When Logan heard Audrey's name, he became furious. "You still dare to use her? She almost killed your daughter." Then, Logan's attitude suddenly softened again. He said to me, "Wife, I still don't feel comfortable letting an outsider take care of Julia. How about you don't go to work anymore? I'll pay your social insurance from now on, and my salary will be for you and our 2 little princesses. Julia is still young, she needs her mother's companionship." He finally said the same words as in the last life. In reality, after I resigned, I paid my social insurance for less than 3 years before he asked me to stop contributing, citing the pressure of the mortgage. He later took away my salary card, and most of the time, I barely had enough money to buy groceries. Later, he said I had been out of touch with society for too long and that we had lost our common language. He began to frequently stay away from home, using work and business trips as excuses. As soon as our daughter finished her college entrance examination, he eagerly proceeded to divorce me and marry a career woman whom he described as charming. "All the money in this house was earned through my hard work. Agreeing to leave you this 400,000, I have already been more than generous." These were his words before the divorce. Later, that 400,000 was also taken away by my daughter. I wouldn't let history repeat itself. I told Logan, "I won't resign." Logan seemed a bit displeased. "What about Julia? Who will take care of her?" I calmly analyzed the situation with him. "My career is still on the rise. If nothing unexpected happens in the next 5 years, I will be promoted again, and by then, my salary will be double yours. So, if you really worry about our daughter, you can resign and stay home to take care of her." Logan fell silent, sighed, and walked into his study. Logan and I were graduate school classmates. He came from a rural background and worked hard to enter a 985 university, where he was recommended to continue his graduate studies. My family was slightly better off, and I grew up in a provincial capital. When we got married, my family paid most of the down payment, and combined with our savings from 4 years of work, we bought a home in Beijing and settled down. Life was getting better and better. I didn't intend to divorce him now. First, he hadn't done anything wrong so far. Second, I was also curious whether Logan would still cheat if I didn't quit my job in this life. And would my daughter Julia still hate me so deeply? 10 years had passed. My career was flourishing. I had been promoted 2 levels and secured a position as a senior director. Scarlett remained a capable subordinate. She was 5 years younger than me and had now been promoted to director. In my previous life, after I resigned, she took my position. We gradually lost contact, but I still learned about her situation through her social media updates. She was a proponent of not getting married, avoiding mortgages and car loans while also not having children. By 40, she saved enough money to quit her job and rented a small courtyard in Dali, living a retired life of planting flowers, growing grass, and playing with cats and dogs. That morning, Scarlett came to my office and whispered to me, "Sister Eleanor, pay attention to your husband recently." Her brother worked in the same department as my husband. A few years ago, I had asked her to help keep an eye on him. I understood and nodded. What was meant to happen still came. That evening, when I returned home, I simply made a few dishes. Since Audrey resigned 3 years ago to go back home and retire, I hadn't hired a nanny again. For so many years, I had been the one paying the nanny's salary. Logan took this for granted. She did the housework you should have done, so of course, you should pay her. When our daughter came home and saw the unappetizing dishes, she pouted and complained, "It looks unappetizing." I replied indifferently, "If you don't want to eat, throw it away and wash the dishes while you're at it." Our daughter angrily returned to her room and slammed the door. A little while later, she came out of her room, holding yesterday's school uniform. "Mom, why didn't you wash my clothes? I don't have any clean clothes to wear tomorrow." I didn't look up and replied, "Turn left on the kitchen balcony, find the washing machine, and don't come to me." Our daughter retorted angrily, "I'm very busy with my studies. Cooking and doing laundry should be done by my mother." I remained calm and said, "I'm also very busy with work. Julia, your study schedule has nothing to do with me. You'll go to college, graduate, and when you earn money, you won't even spend it on me." Our daughter sneered, "If you treat me this way now, don't regret it when you get old and sick and no one is there to take care of you." I thought to myself, that's better than being old and sick, lying in bed while my own daughter runs away with my money. At that moment, Logan walked in. He asked with concern how Julia did on her midterm exams. Julia immediately complained to him, "Don't mention it, I've dropped several places. My deskmate Ruby is still first in the grade. Her mom quit her job to focus on tutoring her for the college entrance exam and even makes her delicious meals every day. Unlike my mom, who does nothing at home." Logan frowned and said to me, "Julia is taking the college entrance exam this year. Why don't you make her some nice food?" I retorted, "Why don't you make her some nice food? Don't you have hands? Did you only grow a mouth from head to toe?" Logan's eyebrows furrowed into a knot. "Eleanor, can't we speak civilly? Do we have to make it awkward?" Yes, it had to be made awkward. I took out a divorce agreement from my bag and handed him the pen. "Sign it. This is what you've been dreaming of." It was finally going to end. After going in circles, we had reached this point today. Even if I don't become a housewife in this life and have a decent job, my husband will still cheat, and my daughter will still criticize me in various ways. From the beginning, human nature had already determined the outcome. Logan was stunned when he saw the documents in my hand. "Is there anything that can't wait until after Julia finishes her college entrance exam? You don't deserve to be a mother at all." My daughter cried, "What's the point of you working hard outside and earning so much money? You don't care about this family at all, you've never contributed to it. Her dad occasionally buys her gifts or takes her out to play, and he thinks that's being good to her. In my previous life, I resigned from my job, handled all the housework, and helped her with her homework for every subject, yet I was still deemed to have not contributed to the family." I smiled, "I've been paying for the nanny. I've cooked all the meals for the past 3 years. Why don't you ask your good dad what he has contributed?" Logan trembled slightly. "After all these years, you should know what kind of person I am. There's no need to slander me like this for custody." He had no shame left. My daughter firmly said, "Don't worry, Dad. No matter what she says, I won't be with her." I finally couldn't hold back any longer. "Deal. It's settled. The first clause of the divorce agreement, the daughter goes to Dad." Having played the roles of wife and mother for a lifetime, I could finally shake off these 2 burdens and leave. I wonder how my daughter will react in the future when she finds out that the father she thinks loves her the most is not only spending his hard-earned money to raise her but also to support a young mistress. My daughter declared emphatically, "From now on, you're no longer my mom, and don't even think about attending my coming-of-age ceremony at school." I smiled, "That's great. I've already arranged to go see a concert with Scarlett that day." 3 months before the college entrance examination, the school traditionally holds a coming-of-age ceremony for all senior students. In my previous life, to ensure that my daughter could participate in this important life event, I painfully sold the dowry jewelry my family had given me at marriage and scraped together 2,000 yuan to buy her a dress. That day, I prepared a lavish dinner, planning to surprise her. But when the father and daughter returned home, chatting and laughing, I saw the shopping bag in my daughter's hand. It was from a high-end dress brand in Beijing, a dress that cost at least tens of thousands. Logan pulled the dress out of the bag and held it against my daughter. The exquisite embossed design and the glossy fabric radiated high-end luxury. My daughter's face was filled with joy and satisfaction. I silently put away the dress I had worked so hard to buy. Compared to the one Logan gave her, mine looked shabby. It was from that day on that I gave up fighting him for custody of our daughter. I had originally thought that once my daughter finished her college entrance exams and didn't need me to take care of her anymore, I would do anything, deliver takeout, drive a ride share, work as a cleaner, to support her. I couldn't let her live with a cheating dad. But my daughter seemed so happy with him. I could endure hardship, but I couldn't let my daughter suffer along with me. On the day of the coming-of-age ceremony, I wore a simple casual outfit and watched her walk across the red carpet in her sparkling gown. She deliberately avoided my gaze. She didn't want her classmates to know I was her mother. Later, one day, my daughter inadvertently stumbled upon the 2,000 yuan dress I had bought for her. She pulled at the unopened price tag and said to me, "My dad works hard to earn money every day, and you don't earn a dime but spend so extravagantly." That night, with tears streaming down my face, I took scissors and shredded the dress. I sat at my workstation, scrolling through the videos sent to me by the private investigator. Logan and the mistress were holding hands, shopping in Shidon shopping mall, and my daughter caught them red-handed. Of course, it couldn't have been that coincidental. I had tipped her off. When the investigator tracked their location, I used a new number to send my daughter a text message. "Your dad has taken me shopping in Shidon again. The money he doesn't want to spend on you will ultimately be spent on me." In the video, my daughter, still in her school uniform, angrily confronted a well-dressed young woman, tearing off her hairpiece in the process. A large crowd gathered around to watch. Logan desperately tried to stop my daughter, but it was futile. He used more force and pushed her away. My daughter lost her balance and fell to the ground. She had never suffered such humiliation and burst into tears, her eyes filled with disbelief, grievance, and anger. "Dad, you actually pushed me for a mistress who destroys other families?" Logan looked guilty but still stood firmly in front of the young woman. "Stop it, Julia. Your Aunt Emily has been pregnant for 2 months now. You're going to have a little brother and a happy family of 4. Don't ruin everything in a moment of impulse." Julia laughed in anger, pointing at herself. "Me? I'm the one ruining everything?" Then she pointed at the young woman he was protecting and looked at Logan, saying, "The one ruining everything is her. What is it about my mom that's inferior to her? What makes you unhappy? My mom's annual salary is twice yours." Logan sighed. "Julia, do you know that when you were 5, you got seriously ill and almost didn't survive in the intensive care unit? At that time, your mother was too busy with work and couldn't take care of you properly. For all these years, your mom has never made family a priority. But your Aunt Emily, the day after finding out she was pregnant, decided to finish her maternity leave and resign, preparing to stay home to accompany and take care of your brother." Julia interrupted him. Brother. You're so desperate for a son. You betray your family and then find so many lofty excuses. I'm telling you, she destroyed my family, and today she must pay the price." She pushed Logan's arm aside and grabbed the young woman's hair, slamming her head against the wall. Julia had never faced hardship in her life and had never been wronged. Although Beijing is not short of wealthy people, she has always lived a more privileged life than many of her classmates. This had fostered her willful and spoiled character. But her carefree, princess-like life was about to come to an end today. Logan angrily slapped her. "Enough, Julia. The divorce agreement has been signed, and your mom doesn't want you anymore. If you still want to get your college tuition and living expenses from me, stop causing such a scene and go home now." Julia's beautiful face was stained with tears. She was crying so hard that she could barely breathe. Home? I don't have a home anymore. Julia was spoiled by him, and this was the first time he had hit her. Logan is a man who cares a lot about his reputation. Julia making such a fuss in the mall undoubtedly embarrassed him. He pulled the disheveled woman beside him and pushed through the crowd, preparing to leave the scene. Just then, a digital product store nearby started playing Jay Chou's What Kind of Man on the speakers. Several onlookers joined in clapping and singing along, creating an extremely comical scene. I knew that from this day forward, the father my daughter loved most would be gone forever. I turned off the video and transferred the final payment to the private investigator. Scarlett came to my office with 2 late-night snacks. Eleanor, you're still working this late? I pulled her to sit by the window. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the vibrant city nightscape unfolded before us. The brightly lit skyscrapers in the distance looked like diamond-encrusted artworks, and the traffic flowing into the distance resembled a never-ending river of stars. I smiled. I have good news to tell you. Scarlett, unwrapping her late-night snacks, raised an eyebrow at me. What a coincidence, I have one too. You go first. Being with Scarlett always felt relaxed and joyful, even more so than in my own home. Having been colleagues for over a decade, I spent more time with her than at home. She had even become my closest friend. I'm getting a divorce. Congratulations. She seemed unfazed, mumbling through a mouthful of grilled chicken wings. When I was 28, I thought I had married the right person and had an angelic baby. I believed my life's mission was complete. At that time, getting married and having children felt like the college entrance exam or postgraduate entrance exam to me, something I had to accomplish, a report I needed to submit for my life. But many women, once they step into marriage, lose themselves. They treat their husbands and children as their entire lives but forget that they are independent individuals. I was no exception, but one day I woke up. When a relationship only brings you endless internal strife, it should be ended. Scarlett gave me a thumbs up. Sister, well said. Congratulations on regaining your freedom. Trust me, your life will be happier from now on. In this life, Scarlett still hadn't married. She had great qualities, with a model-like face and outstanding work abilities, attracting many suitors, but she turned them all down. In her early 30s, she often received calls from her family arranging blind dates, and many people in her company also tried to introduce her to partners, yet she had held out until now. What's your good news? I asked. Scarlett mysteriously took out a tablet from her bag and showed me a few pictures. The first 3 pictures were of a large courtyard by the river, with gently flowing water reflecting a pastoral landscape, serene and idyllic like a paradise. The next few pictures were of a floor plan and decoration renderings for a 2-story villa. Scarlett could no longer contain her excitement. Eleanor, I rented my dream courtyard in Dolly. I've already hired a designer and am planning to build a beautiful country villa. I'll resign and go there to retire next year. Indeed, her life trajectory was overlapping with her previous one. This was the life I envied most in my past life. Having saved enough retirement money to retire early and spending my remaining years in picturesque natural beauty is what most people dream of. Yet we have all lost sight of our initial dreams in the concrete jungle. Eleanor, would you like to come with me? She looked at me with sincere and bright eyes, like an angel. I've been in Beijing for over 20 years. I studied, worked, settled down, started a family, and bought a house here. It has become my second hometown. I gazed out the window, the bustling traffic weaving a sea of stars that felt like a long-lost dream. Seeing that I hadn't responded, Scarlett looked a bit disappointed but continued. We can plant flowers and vegetables, grow fruit trees, and raise chickens, geese, and little rabbits there, I chuckled. You've really put in a lot of thought. Scarlett replied, I'll cover the rent for the courtyard, you just need to help with the daily expenses. We can buy lots of seeds, make a little vegetable garden, and get some fluffy little chicks to build a chicken coop. We can have organic vegetables and farm fresh eggs every day. What do you think, Eleanor? Not a chance. I smiled. Scarlett looked aggrieved. All right, I won't push you. We'll split the rent for the courtyard down the middle. That night, in Beijing's bustling CBD, two old girls made a significant decision to retire together. Logan had taken out a loan to buy a house in a high-end community. That day, I accompanied a college roommate to a real estate office to look at properties. Her child was already in college, and a while ago, she and her husband had sold their old rundown school district house, planning to add some money and exchange it for a new one. What a coincidence, we ran into Logan's family of 3 in the beautifully decorated model room. If you count the baby in his current wife's belly, it should be 4. Logan and his wife were chatting and laughing while admiring the spacious and bright living room. Their daughter Julia followed behind, her gaze vacant like a puppet's. Honey, I'll also put down a 200,000 yuan down payment. Can my name be on the house deed too? The woman said in a feigned cute tone. I watched these two with interest. The minimum down payment for this type of house was 3 million yuan. Logan coaxed her, that 200,000 yuan is the bride price I gave you. Keep it for yourself, spend it however you like. If you run out, just come to ask your husband for more. But husband, I want my name on the house. Otherwise, I feel completely insecure being with you. Logan continued to patiently coax her. Look at you, why do you feel insecure again? No matter whose name is on the house, it will still belong to our son in the future. Julia's fists tightened, her nails digging deep into her palms. That's not certain, the woman complained. If the house is in your name, then both your son and daughter will have inheritance rights. Logan said, don't worry, Julia won't compete with our son, your mom still has a house, right? Before I could say anything, my college roommate Amelia couldn't hold back. Eleanor's house, when did it become your place to arrange? Logan was taken aback, just about to explain, when Emily walked over. She was indeed young and beautiful, with long curly hair cascading lazily, her skin smooth and glowing. Even though she was pregnant, she still looked very polished. She approached me with a polite smile. You must be his ex-wife. It's nice to meet you here. Don't be too happy too soon, I thought to myself. Sure enough, she changed her tone. There's something I've been wanting to discuss with you. I'm not sure when you're free. Let's set a time to meet. I replied, I'm free now, just go ahead. But Logan got anxious and pulled Emily, saying, don't make a scene here, let's talk about it later. Emily shook off his hand and looked at me, speaking each word deliberately. The house you currently live in rightfully belongs to Logan as well. When you divorced, Logan felt guilty towards you and left the house for you, but I think that's unfair. I asked, what's unfair about it? Although he is the one at fault, the law won't support your claim to the jointly purchased house. If we go to court to sue you, we might just win. Emily, Julia, who had been silent for a long time, spoke coldly. You took away my dad, took away the savings he left for me, and now you want to take the house my mom left for me, right? Who said that was left for you? I thought. But I didn't say it out loud. It seemed that my daughter didn't have a good relationship with her stepmother. If I retorted now, it would only embolden Emily. Emily calmly responded, this isn't theft, it's just protecting my rights through legitimate legal means. I impatiently interrupted her, fine, go ahead and sue me. She didn't expect my response to be so straightforward and was momentarily at a loss for words. I continued, when we bought this house, the majority of the down payment was sponsored by my parents. Logan only contributed less than 200,000 yuan, which I've already repaid him after the divorce. For all these years, I've been the one repaying the mortgage. Is there anything unclear, Miss Emily? Emily could no longer pretend to be calm, angrily saying, Logan, you've been lying to me. Didn't you say you paid the down payment all by yourself? Seeing his lie exposed, Logan quickly reassured her, don't be angry, take care not to stress the baby. Didn't you always want your name on a new house? I promise the new house will have both our names on it, okay? Emily's face instantly brightened with a smile, but Logan's expression clearly darkened. Amelia was quite satisfied with the community and layout of the house. She called her husband, who was on a business trip, and decided right then and there to secure the house. In the sales office lobby, Logan's family sat next to us signing the contract. Upon hearing that Amelia was buying the house in cash, Emily said to Logan with a hint of jealousy, "Her husband is so capable. He didn't even blink when buying such an expensive house in cash. We'll have quite a bit of mortgage pressure in the future. Husband, you need to work harder and earn more." Logan replied coldly, "She's my ex-wife's college classmate, graduated and went straight for a doctorate. Now she's a professor at a 985 university. The money they used to buy the house was earned together after 20 years of hard work." The smile on Emily's face froze, but she still pouted, "But husband, I'm so much younger than you. You should take care of me." Julia could no longer hold her anger and shouted, "Auntie, you're old enough. Can you stop pretending to be innocent? Isn't it disgusting?" The two of them began arguing fiercely again. Suddenly, I thought back to many years ago when our family went to look at houses. Julia was 3 then, bouncing around the model room with joy, not wanting to leave the adorable children's room, which made me determined to buy that house. Before that, we had been renting a rundown old apartment of less than 40 square meters. When we took possession of the new house, my daughter ran around, like a fawn that had stepped into a forest. In that moment, my heart softened immensely for her. But when she entered middle school, she became dissatisfied with this house and demanded a bigger one. She had plenty of reasons. "I need a dance room, a piano room, an art studio, and a big walk-in closet." "Mom, if you can earn so much money, why can't you get me a bigger house? What's wrong with taking out a bigger loan? You can pay it off, can't you? My deskmate lives in a villa with a big yard." "I'm not even asking you to buy me a villa." I slapped her directly. "What gives you the right to demand?" At that moment, Julia looked at me in disbelief. "You're acting like a wicked stepmother." And now, she truly had a stepmother. Half a year later, I sold my house in Beijing. On the day the old furniture was being cleared out, Julia unexpectedly appeared downstairs in the apartment building. It was right after the college entrance exams, and most of her peers were traveling around the world. Julia's grades were far worse than in her previous life. She only got into a private second-tier university, with tuition of $50,000 a year. My ex-husband repeatedly hinted to me, both openly and subtly, that he had to repay the mortgage and was financially strained, asking if I could cover part of our daughter's tuition. I ignored him but ruthlessly laughed at him in my heart. This was the life he had always wanted, with both a son and a daughter. Before we divorced, he often expressed his desire for a second child, wanting me to have another son, claiming that having both a son and a daughter was the ideal family. Now that the family was indeed complete, he couldn't afford it anymore. Downstairs, Julia asked the movers, "Excuse me, which household are you moving for?" The mover replied, "It's the one upstairs, 602. I took the elevator down, dragging a suitcase, and said to the mover, "Thank you for your hard work. Everything is ready, let's go." Julia exclaimed, "Don't leave." I didn't turn around. She continued, "The neighbor girl said many people have been coming to look at my house recently. I didn't believe it at first, but it turns out you really sold the house. How can you make such a decision without my consent? This was supposed to be the house left for me." I loaded the suitcase into the car and replied, "I never said it was meant for you." "Then where am I supposed to live? My dad and stepmom haven't prepared for me to live in their new house. You know the housing prices now, I can't afford to buy one on my own. Since you gave birth to me in Beijing, you should leave me a house in Beijing." I finally turned around, looked her in the eye, and said slowly, "Julia, I raised you without worry until you turned 18. I owe you nothing. From the time you enter university, I will give you 20,000 yuan in tuition each year until you graduate. We're cutting ties here." But what happened later meant I only sent that 20,000 yuan in tuition for 1 year. I got into the passenger seat of the van and closed the door. The car started. In the rearview mirror, I saw Julia running after us. She cried out, "Mom, I have no home anymore, Mom." When she was young, she would also run after me, and if she accidentally fell, she would cry out in grievance. I would rush back to hold her, a tiny little thing in my arms, crying and throwing a fit. At that time, I thought, my daughter, no matter what you want, your mom will work hard to make your wishes come true. But you wanted too much. Mom isn't a superhero, she gets tired too. Mom also wants to live for herself once. This time, she cried even louder, and I didn't look back again. After Scarlett and I finished handing over our work, we both submitted our resignation papers. On the day we left Beijing, she was loaded down with bags, having already sent several boxes of packages ahead. I, on the other hand, only had one suitcase. I thought back to over 20 years ago when I took a green train to Beijing for university, carrying a heavy load of luggage. An entire generation of youth was coming to an end. I came heavily and left lightly. Scarlett and I quickly adapted to life in our small courtyard in Dali. Scarlett had always been working part-time as a writer and had now turned it into a full-time job. Every morning, she would greet the first rays of sunlight and morning mist, taking her notebook to write in the pavilion of the small courtyard. Next to the pavilion was a stream system I designed. Carp swam gently at my feet, and the babbling stream flowed clear and vibrant. And I had completely relaxed. The money from selling the Beijing house, combined with years of savings, allowed me to earn around 100,000 yuan in interest each year. For someone like me, who doesn't have high material desires, this was more than enough. We planted 2 apple trees, a cherry tree, and a pomegranate tree in the yard. Beneath the trees, a winding flower path bloomed with fragrant flowers. I fenced off a small vegetable garden, growing many vegetables. The reason for the fence was that there were always mischievous little rabbits sneaking in to munch on my vegetables. Scarlett took the initiative to handle all 3 meals each day. She cooked very well, and after 2 months, I could visibly see my figure becoming rounder. I changed my phone number and kept in touch only with a few close friends. The first time I heard from Julia again was through a group chat message forwarded to me by my college roommate Amelia. It was from her new homeowners group. In a video sent by one of the homeowners, 2 police officers were arresting a young girl. Behind her, a well-dressed woman was screaming frantically. Someone in the group said, "It's a criminal case. This girl pushed her half-brother off the 15th floor. What a poor little boy, not even a year old, and he's lost his life like this." The homeowners group was instantly in an uproar. At first, everyone was discussing it passionately, eager to watch the drama unfold. Until one homeowner said, "With such a serious incident, the housing prices in our community are bound to drop." Everyone suddenly realized and began to criticize and curse the family involved in the incident. A few days later, Amelia told me that my ex-husband Logan and his current wife were arguing day and night. The woman's screams and the sound of things being smashed made the neighbors unbearable, and they all complained to the property management. Eventually, that woman completely lost her mind. I heard that the day before her mental breakdown, Logan had spent the entire night smoking downstairs. Then he went to the police station to sign a letter of understanding. I put down my phone and sighed deeply. Scarlett came over with 2 plates of steaming food and sat down beside me. "Eleanor, your favorite oil-braised shrimp. Eat it while it's hot." The evening in the courtyard was peaceful and beautiful. The 2 old girls enjoyed a lavish dinner together. Scarlett's Shiba Inu ran over, and she scooped it into her arms. She turned the little dog's head towards me and said, "Come on, smile for Auntie." The koi swam by in the stream at my feet, their tails creating ripples. The blue hydrangeas bloomed fervently in the sunset.